Hey guys, Newcomb here, and we got some fun stories for you guys today. These are people confessing their deepest, darkest secrets, and this really answers the question, does a men's size really matter? Well, apparently it does for this person. This one's titled, My Small Dick Has Ruined So Many Relationships, and I'm Giving Up on Women. First, I want to acknowledge that in the grand scheme of things, this is a far better problem to have than so many people out there. And I realize that I'm lucky in that sense, but I still need to vent. I'm a guy, and I think about giving up with women. I'm throwing in the towel. The reason is simple, because I have a small dick. I mean really small. I realize that I am far from the first guy to have this problem or to vent about it. I know that because I have read many posts of men struggling with a small dick as well. And seeing other people struggle with the same thing I'm struggling with makes them feel better about sharing it, and it makes me feel better that I'm not the only one. But their problem is encouragement, and it just doesn't ring true for me. I get it. Girls needs a huge dick to feel sensation. The most sensitive areas are just a few inches, and that's how you use it. I understand that there are plenty of adult toys that may help in this situation, but usually the girl will want the real thing in the end after so many toy sessions. I also understand that there is more to life than just sex, but sex is part of life and part of relationships. Here's the thing, I really like a girl, and I want the best for her, but I don't want her to have to settle in such a huge way for me. And I don't want the guilty feeling of feeling that she has to settle of a big aspect of her life just for the likes of me. I've been in relationships and I've been dumped so many times because of this. And I have dumped many girls because of this because I always feel like they have to settle for me, and I always feel guilty to continue the relationship of never fully satisfying their needs. And I'm at the point of just snapping to give up. I don't feel like a man anymore. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Am I the one that's sabotaging so many good relationships because of my insecurities? Or what else should I do? Our next story is titled, I'm 16 and I've been lying to my 70-year-old grandmother, and I'm glad I've been doing it. So today is my grandmother's birthday. It's just her and I who have been living together ever since my grandfather has passed away and my mom left me here to keep her company. So we make with what we have and make do with it. My grandmother was disappointed when my 24-year-old sister forgot my grandmother's birthday again. And I don't really blame my sister for this because how often do people remember their grandparents' birthday? So, like last year, she didn't remember. My grandmother told me not to text my sister because she should remember on her own. But I never listened to my grandmother. I texted my sister that it was grandma's birthday today and to come over. My sister immediately responded and then came over with flowers and gifts from my grandmother. My grandmother's eyes lit up and was so happy. She was overjoyed that my sister remembered and no one had to tell her about it. So, this wasn't a scandalous confession, but it's my secret, and I'll keep holding on to this secret forever. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Is it bad to lie to your grandparents about these type of things? This next story is a fun short one. I had a nightmare that I was a muffin. I imagined myself being made with the flours, the dough, the yeast, everything that you need to make a muffin great. And then I came to the realization that I was being put into the oven. I was screaming that I was a person and then no one could listen to me, and they shut me in and I woke up. I'm in my early 20s. I woke up in tears and I feel so guilty and I have no idea why. Our next story is pretty weird. It's titled, I Kissed My Sister Thinking She Was My Girlfriend. I was at a party, talking to my sister, friends, her friends, my girlfriend, and eventually got into a big game of truth or dare. I was dared to kiss my girlfriend in front of everyone, with tongue and all that. But unfortunately for me, it was really dark, with occasional of flashing blinding lights, which really didn't help. So I leaned in and kissed who I thought was my girlfriend for a good 4 to 5 seconds before I realized that she wasn't kissing me back. I looked around and saw my friends look at me all weird. I looked back and my sister was in front of me in the most dazed, surprised look on her face. Before I realized I had kissed her and not my girlfriend, who I thought was sitting next to me. My sister is good 18 months younger than me, and she saw this funny side of it and knew it was an accident when it happened. But it was the most embarrassing moment in my life. When it happened, I just wanted to curl into a ball and disappear. Our next story is titled, My Boyfriend is Ugly. I've been dating my boyfriend for over 6 months now, and he's the best personality I could ever ask for in a man. He's super supportive, kind, thoughtful, caring, confident, intelligent, loving, charismatic. He's so funny that he makes me drool. There are just so many ways to describe all these great aspects of him. To be honest though, I thought of this way ever since I met him, as he was sweating into a tank top, somewhat overweight, and completely not my style. I wasn't attracted to him at all. But the more I got to know and talk to him, I realized that he's really handsome and very sexy to me. I couldn't ever compliment on his looks so much when we first started dating and always focus on his personality. But now, I can't help but stare and feel like I truly love him. He's the cutest person I know inside and out, and this makes me realize that I really do love him. I obviously don't want to tell him or even my parents and his friends why I'm with him. Just a small confession where I realized that I really love my boyfriend even though he's ugly.
Our last story for today. My father pulled a background check on me and is now on the verge of cutting me off from the rest of my family. 3 years ago, I left my home and joined the military straight out of high school. It was a hard decision, and I think about how my life could have been different every day, but I had to do it. I grew up in a very abusive household, and what I can remember of my childhood is unpleasant to say the least. My parents had me when they were in their early 20s, as my mom was in college and my dad was working as a car mechanic. My mom honestly had a very promising future ahead of her. She is the most talented violinist I've ever seen in my life and just about the kindest person in the world. My father, on the other hand, is a severe narcissist. He didn't have the greatest childhood and escaped a third world country when he was just 16. Unfortunately, he never let me forget how hard he had it. He married my mom a year after meeting her, and they had me, causing my mom to drop out of school and subsequently leave the workforce. I'd like to imagine that at some point they must have loved me, but whenever that was, it passed very quickly. Long story short, they fell into financial trouble when I was a toddler and dumped me on my grandmother on my father's side. Things only went downhill as they had another child, my middle sister, who I'll call Kayla. They doted on this kid like no tomorrow, leaving me on the sidelines until I turned 8. Suddenly, they had beef with my grandmother and took me out of her care and isolated me from her until I turned 16. I had another sister, who I'll call Lee, shortly after they took me out of my grandmother's house. The three of us were very close, despite my father's attempts to ostracize me. My mother's low self-esteem has always kept her from opposing my very manipulative father, so as often as she witnessed the abuse, she did nothing to stop it. Because of this, I grew up pretty self-reliant. Despite my father sabotaging my attempts at going to college, I did the next best thing and joined the military. I'm over it now, and over the past 3 years, I've kept my distance and been very respectful to them. I've even been covering various expenses they have now that Kayla is heading to college and Lee is a really sickly kid. I've also been in therapy, and for the most part, I feel like I'm handling it pretty well. Well, a few months ago, I married my girlfriend of 2 years, who we'll call Bella. Being gay has been difficult as my parents are very strict Catholics, but at their request, I leave them out of it so they didn't know I was married. Last week, we moved out of the on-base dormitories into a rental house. Despite my protesting, they came by and gifted me some furniture and helped out with the moving process, planning on staying with me for 3 days. The first night that we moved in, Halloween, Bella's father passed away and she had to take emergency leave, leaving me with my parents and the new house for the next 2 weeks. During that time, my father and I got into an argument about some plans I had made for Christmas time, in which I would take Kayla and Lee to a theme park. He flipped out at me, telling me he owned them and that as much as I thought I was grown, I was not an adult and could not be trusted to care for his children, like I'm not his child too. He stormed out of the house and left for home shortly after, where, as I was informed by Kayla, he ranted to her about how shitty I was. My mom wasn't present, so last night when she questioned me on the phone about the reason my father was so angry now that he was home, I explained the situation to her, and requested that if he had a problem with me, he should be upfront with the family instead of bashing me in front of my sisters who I love more than anything in this world. She didn't take it well and ratted me out to my father. This sicko retaliated by, I suspect, going through my mail before he left and then pulling a background check on me. One of my bank accounts is also still under his name, left forgotten from when I was a teenager, which he used to pull private information about my pay and my spending. He then compiled all this information and created a fucking binder of my private information which he used as a lecture tool on my younger sisters about how shitty I am for getting married behind their backs, not contributing more to the family, and various other things, including the details on a personal loan I recently took out to help me out in a difficult situation I was stuck in last month. I can't believe he did that, and I'm so betrayed and hurt, and I can't bring this up to them without seriously hurting my relationship with my immediate and extended family and friends. I have no idea how to react, but mostly I'm just livid and sad and have no idea what my next steps should be. Should I bust his ass for stealing my mail? Pulling a background check? Sharon.